Since the beginning of mankind, there's a question we've never been able to answer, and that's whether you should or shouldn't have sex before a fight. Let's talk about that in this video. A lot of coaches and fighters alike say that abstinence can help you get an edge over your opponent. They think that ejaculation can weaken your legs or it can make you less aggressive in a fight. While other coaches and fighters say that it can make you more relaxed and help you perform better. Then the other side says that it can make you too relaxed and decrease your testosterone. There are different schools of thoughts on this subject and all come from reputable sources. Many fighters and coaches who say this is a myth theorize that it was invented to prevent fighters from actually trying to go and get sex. They theorize that what really hurt their performance is them going out and chasing girls, which equaled time away from the gym. It wasn't the actual act of ejaculating or having sex. It was the act of trying to get sex and the time that it took and the level of focus that it took away from the training. On the opposite side is coaches and fighters that say something actually happens to you when you ejaculate, that you lose that vitality, you lose that aggression, and you lose that thing that makes you a man. Here's what actual notable names have said. Mike Tyson has said that during training with Cuss, he didn't have sex for 5 years, and for a long time that was believed to be like the poster boy for abstinence because we all saw how amazing he was. But then his biography came out and he revealed that when he was training with Cuss, he was masturbating every single day, right? So he wasn't spending that time with girls, but he was spending a lot of time with himself. He said he would train, masturbate, repeat. That was his daily life. Robert Garcia, who's a legendary boxing coach of fighters like Marcos Maidana and Mikey Garcia, says that it's okay to do in moderation, even the week of the fight, as long as you don't overdo it. Freddie Roach, who's another legendary boxing coach, says he requires his fighters to have at least 10 days of abstinence before a fight. He asks them as a favor to abstain from sex for at least 10 days before a fight. David Haye, who's another incredible boxer, has been known to abstain for up to 6 weeks before a fight. He even said that during training camp, he rejects the woman that make moves on him in his dreams. That's some self-discipline right there. Former UFC champion Daniel Cormier said he likes to abstain before a fight, and he also likes to enter a fight hungry because it gives you something to get over and a goal to have on the other side of your opponent. Something to get to, right? He feels like you gotta come in with a desire, a certain level of aggression into a fight to get rid of your opponent in order to get that reward at the end. So he would abstain before every single fight. Guys like Floyd Mayweather and Adrian Broner have both on record said that they abstain before a fight, regardless of the fact that there's about 20 pretty girls around them at all times. Guys like Roy Jones Jr. have been known to be abstinent before a fight, and so has Manny Pacquiao, who's known to abstain up to 3 weeks before every single fight that he had. Muhammad Ali's coach, Angelo Dundee, actually joked that people thought Muhammad Ali was homosexual when he was young because he wouldn't talk to any of the girls, he wouldn't have a social life, all he did was train. Here you have this tall, handsome guy who didn't spend any time with the ladies, right? So people would question him. However, when he was older, he was given an interview and he said that abstaining from sex before a fight is an absolute myth that coaches made up. Now, whether or not he did it, we don't know for sure. And there's honestly another dozen examples of coaches that say it's okay to have sex, fighters that say it's not, and vice versa, right? There's both reputable sources out there of guys who reach peak levels of success in the sport, and they're both saying different things. So what does the science say? So when all else fails, we can always trust science, unless we're talking about this. As you can imagine, not a lot of guys are dumping loads of money into studying how busting nuts affects men, especially fighters. There was one small study that was done that asked men to abstain for up to 7 days, and what they found is that on the 7th day, testosterone actually peaked. But then right after that, it went back down to baseline, but they stopped the study short. They didn't continue the study, so we don't know what actually happens to the body over the course of longer periods of abstinence, right? It could be that maybe it just every peak, it keeps increasing to a new normal, or maybe it just peaks and valleys throughout the course of the abstinence, right? So that study was never really too conclusive other than having peaked at that 7th day, which was pretty interesting. Then there was an episode of Sports Science that took Chris Bird, who was a former heavyweight champ, and they basically measured him before a night of sex and after a night of sex. And they actually found that he performed better after a night of sex. But that's inconclusive because we're just talking about one person. When it comes to scientific studies, that's about where it ends. But there is a huge movement happening that's called nofap. And you can see evidence of this on Reddit. It's a huge community of people that have gave up porn, masturbation, and sex for the following benefits. The reported benefits included better skin, feeling more masculine, feeling more confidence, having less anxiety, having better workouts, having women be more attracted to them, and the list goes on and on and on. There's many different benefits that these guys report, mostly having to do with being more manly and feeling more alpha, if you will. Now, scientific thinkers have brushed this off as the placebo effect, which is very well might be. Placebo is super powerful, and maybe that's what makes fighters think they can or they cannot have sex before a fight. All that matters maybe is what they believe, right? Because what your mind believes, it will make reality. So it very well might be placebo, or there very well might be something scientific to it that we're just not aware yet, because again, nobody's dumping loads of money into this. So if nothing else, we could look at some ancient wisdom from the Taoists and the monks that say that we have chi energy within our bodies, the thing that makes our essence, and that when we spill our seed, we're releasing our vitality and we become weaker and less enlightened versions of ourselves. Outside of fighters, many successful human beings have been known to abstain from sex, guys like Nikola Tesla being a perfect example. There's actually a book called Think and Grow Rich that dedicates an entire chapter to something called sexual transmutation. Sexual transmutation basically means transforming that energy, using that energy for something bigger than just the actual act of sex. But he warns that abstinence won't do. You can't just abstain from sex. You have to abstain from it and use that built up tension and that built up energy and put it into a greater cause. For a fighter, that cause would be his training. That transmutation would be his training, and that cause would be beating the hell out of his opponent. He talks about the fact that everything we see in the world today was created by sexual energy. It was created by that creative energy, right? It was created out of man's desire for sex. So rather than spill that energy, we should harness it and use it for something productive. I'm really loosely paraphrasing here, so you guys should definitely check out that book on your own time. I recommend it to just about anybody who comes from all walks of life. Read that book at least one time. So now I'm officially one of those YouTubers that talks about something for 10 minutes and never really answers the question. And that's because at the end of the day, no one really knows. But if you give a shit, here's my opinion on the subject. Number one is never masturbate. It's not the same as having sex. It makes you feel different. The activity is different. And honestly, you're not a fucking monkey, right? It's not something that a human being should partake in. If you're going to release, you should always release with a woman. And if you don't have a woman to release with, then you have bigger problems. It means you're not providing enough value to society. You're not providing enough value as a member of the opposite sex. And you have bigger problems to worry about, which means you don't have time to masturbate. You need to work on you. So if you're going to be doing anything sexual, make sure it's the real thing with the person of your choice. No self-love and no digital shit. The most important thing is that you try abstinence for yourself to see if it works for you. Don't worry about what I think. Don't worry about what all these fighters think. Worry about what it does for you, right? What I recommend is abstain from sex for 1 month, right? And gauge your training and your sparring throughout. And then right before sparring day at about the month mark, let one go and then see how you do the next day, right? See if you're actually relaxed and maybe you do a little better, or see if you get your fucking ass kicked all over the place. Personally, I've always abstained before a fight. It made me think different. It made me feel different. It made me perform different. And I actually practice abstinence in my daily life because it gives me a mental edge with the things that I do. It makes me more productive. It gives me more energy. And it could all be mental, but it works for me. The only way that you'll know if it works for you is to have the balls and the discipline to try it, right? If you're beating your meat every day, there's something wrong with you. You're addicted, right? You should be able to stop something for at least a month time without feeling some kind of way about it. The only person that can tell you what works for you is you, so don't be afraid to experiment. Don't look to the internet for answers. The internet doesn't have all the answers on what works for you. Only you will, right? What happens online a lot is one YouTuber or blogger will say something, and then all the other YouTubers and bloggers will just parrot what they're saying. And then what people will see is this information seems to be everywhere, so this must be it. This must be the shit. This must be the thing that works. But in reality, half of those people, more than half of those people, have never actually done the thing that they're telling you to do. They're just repeating and recycling and parroting the shit that somebody else has done, right? One guy did something, he experimented, it worked for him, he said it online, and now everybody's just repeating that shit, having never actually done it themselves. So what happens is we're going off of one guy's experience. So you don't want to be in that position, because what worked for that one guy might not work for me, might not work for you, might work for another guy, right? But we just never know. So the best thing to do is use your mind. Think about the problems in your life. Think about the problems that you're having. There's always going to be a solution. You just got to use your brain. When you constantly go online and try to look up the answer to something, you're weakening your brain, you're weakening your ability to make decisions for yourself. You want to make these decisions for yourself. You want to experiment. You want to get the experience under your belt so you can know what works and what doesn't for you. Then eventually you'll have enough knowledge and enough wisdom to mislead people like the rest of us. Only kidding. But most importantly, you'll have the experience and the wisdom to know what's best for your life. And you'll have the ability to make decisions for yourself. But the biggest takeaway here is, guys, if you're going to have sex. Don't masturbate. If you're going to abstain or not abstain, it doesn't matter. Have sex with a person. Don't waste your time loving yourself. It's not worth it. So the best thing you could do is to try it out and see how it works for you. You've probably been abusing your body with the age that we live in today and overstimulating it sexually. So take a break, right? A month is not going to hurt you. If anything, it will help you. It'll help you learn some things about yourself. It'll maybe help reset your brain, or maybe help you free up some real estate in your brain to think about other things. If you absolutely don't give yourself an option for sexual release, you'll start looking at other things that you could do, right? Late at night, things that you think about during the day, you won't have that option for release, so your mind will look for other things to put that creative energy towards rather than just sitting there fantasizing or spending that time going after somebody. Hope you guys liked the video. If you have any questions, please drop them below in the comments. I'm Sean with Brawl Brothers, and I'll brawl with you guys next time.